Here's everything you need to know about Season 1. Starting off with the Vanguards, Captain America has received numerous buffs. He now has a reduced delay time for shield restoration after releasing Living Legend from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, his base health has increased from 650 to 675, his Liberty Rush cooldown has reduced from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, and his Freedom Charge energy cost reduced from 3400 to 3100 on his ultimate. Captain America has found himself in a bit of a weak spot, so these changes will improve his gameplay a little bit, but I don't think they're going to put him on par with the likes of other good tanks such as Magneto and Doctor Strange. Next we have Thor, who is also receiving buffs. His base health has increased from 500 to 525, and he is now gaining CC immunity during his ultimate, which means he cannot be stunned out of it. These buffs will be really good for Thor. He usually finds himself dying a little bit faster than other tanks, and his ultimate doesn't always get off because it can be interrupted. Venom is also receiving buffs. His bonus health ratio gain per lost health point is being increased from 1 to 1.2, and he is also gaining 10 more base damage on his ultimate. These changes are strong for Venom. I thought that he did a lot of damage and has a lot of survivability anyways, but these changes will just enhance that and will probably make him an even better character. Next we have Magneto. The only buffs he is receiving is on his team up with Scarlet Witch. He has increased metallic fusion projectile damage from 55 to 60 and increased metallic fusion spell field damage from 30 to 35. Overall small buffs, but this increases the incentive to play Scarlet Witch. Next we have the Punisher, who is receiving slightly reduced spread of his primary weapons. This is a small change but makes him a little bit easier to play. Next we have Wolverine, who is receiving a buff and a nerf. His base health is being increased from 300 to 350, but the damage reduction ratio is being reduced from 50% to 40% in Undying Animal. These buffs will make Wolverine a little bit more tankier when not using his abilities, but when he starts comboing people, he will die a little bit faster. Next we have Winter Soldier, and he is receiving a lot of buffs and changes. Firstly, his base health is going from 250 to 275. His bonus health provided by Bionic Hook and Tainted Voltage is also increasing from 30 to 40. His primary fire damage is increasing from 70 to 75, but the area damage is being reduced on his primary fire from 70 to 65, and reduced damage decay from 65% at 40 meters to 60%. These changes overall will make Winter Soldier a little bit more tankier with a bit more survivability, and these changes are aimed at making him get a little bit closer in the fight and not just stand back with a rocket team up and delete the whole team. I think Winter Soldier will probably take these buffs and use them very well and become one of the best DPS in the game. Next we have Storm. Storm is receiving huge changes this patch. Her primary fire projectile speed is increasing from 100 to 150, and its damage is increasing from 50 to 55. Her bolt rush damage is increasing from 70 to 80, and after ulting, her bonus health is increased from 350 to 450 and will now diminish at 100 per second after the ultimate finishes. And regarding her team up, the cooldown of her team up ability is reducing from 20 seconds to 15 seconds and is being increased by 5 damage. These buffs for Storm are pretty amazing if you ask me. I think it improves her playability in all areas. She has more damage, more survivability, and she's easier to play with her projectile speed increasing. There is also more incentive to pick her because of her team up buff, which is handy with Thor and Captain America getting buffs this patch also. I think we'll see Storm rise as one of the best DPS in the game. Now let's move on to Namor. Namor is receiving an adjustment so that when throwing his turrets it feels a little bit more accurate and not clunky. He's also receiving some team up buffs with his icy turret. The damage of Frozen Spawn is being increased from 25 to 27. The slow is being increased from 25% to 30%, and the berserk state damage is being increased from 16 to 18. I think these buffs seem very small, but in practice I think they're going to buff him quite a lot, as people tend to ignore these turrets quite often. You might want to be taking more notice of his blue turret from now on. Squirrel Girl is receiving some buffs also. Her ultimate will now target the nearest enemy after bouncing, and the squirrel health has been reduced from 600 to 300. Squirrel Girl has had a tough time so far, so these buffs will work out really well for her. Her ultimate is largely ignored with no one having to shoot it because it never really grabs a kill. However, now players will have to be focusing her ultimate just so they don't die. Moving on to Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is also receiving some good buffs. These buffs are primarily helping her to fight squishy characters. Her primary sucky damage is increasing from 50 to 60. The reduced percentage damage per second is decreasing from 5% to 3%, and her Chitonium burst projectile damage is increasing from 30 to 35, so overall just buffs to make her a little bit better against squishies and not just a tank killer. These are pretty good buffs. I think they will see her played a little bit more, especially with her team up buffs with Magneto. Next we have Moon Knight, who is also receiving buffs. The number of talons generated by his ultimate is going from 10 to 14, and the explosion radius of each talon is increasing from 4 meters to 5 meters. I like these buffs as his ultimate is very easy to walk out of and isn't the most deadly part of his kit, which it probably should be since it's and ultimate. Magik is receiving a small buff. Her dash damage in Darkchild form is going from 115 to 135. I like this buff as Magik's ult feels a little bit underwhelming, and only really her spin attack seems like the most useful ability to damage enemies with in her ult. Next we have Black Widow, who is receiving a few changes. The range of Edge Dancer is increasing from 3 meters to 5 meters. The time required for her stamina bar in Fleet Foot to fully recover is being reduced from 12 seconds to 4 seconds, and the time for her ultimate to reach maximum power is being reduced from 1 second to 0.6 seconds. These buffs are very good for Black Widow, however I really don't think they're going to make much of a difference for her. She now has a little bit more survivability and can run around a lot faster, and her ult charges faster, but this isn't going to change the fact that she is a bad character. Sorry, Black Widow. Next we have Rocket Raccoon. His healing is being buffed from 60 per second to 70 per second, which I think is pretty huge for him. His team up is also being buffed as the cooldown of ammo invention is being reduced from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. Overall, pretty huge buffs for Raccoon, and if you pair them to the buffs of Winter Soldier, I think he's going to go a little bit crazy. His healing seems to fall behind other healers right now, but these buffs will definitely bump him up a bit. Next we have Jeff. His bubble healing is being increased from 140 per second to 150, and his ultimate is being adjusted so you don't get yanked out of the sky as much without warning. Next we have Cloak and Dagger, who are receiving pretty big buffs. Firstly, the Dagger Storm cooldown, which is Dagger's heal bubble, is being reduced from 15 seconds to 12 seconds, and the number of dashes that they gain in their ultimate is going from 3 to 4. These changes are pretty huge. I personally didn't think Dagger needed that much of a change, but this is definitely going to buff her a lot. I'll probably see a lot more people playing her in your games. Now we're moving on to the nerfs. Next we have Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has been the best tank and one of the best characters since the game's release, so he definitely needs some nerfs. Doctor Strange is having damage fall off being added to his Maelstrom of Madness and Gamma Maelstrom starting at 5 meters and reducing to 70% at 8 meters. This is his AoE explosion that tends to delete huge packs of enemies. His shield recovery rate is also reducing after he releases his shield from 80 per second to 70 per second, so he does less damage and he can shield less frequently. These are good changes for Doctor Strange, probably won't impact him too much, but we shall have to see in the game. I for one am so sick of getting one shot by Doctor Strange when I'm 10 miles away, so hopefully these changes will stop that from happening. Now we have Psylocke. This is more of a bug fix and quality of life change for other players in the game more than anything, but her ultimate will now check for barriers, which includes Magneto's barrier and Hulk's guard. This means that some characters will be able to survive a little bit more in her ultimate, and she won't be able to just slash through every ability in the game, which seems a little bit silly. I think this change may actually nerf her ultimate more than what we think it will. Next we have Mantis, my baby Mantis. Her passive movement speed boost is getting reduced from 2.5 to 1.5. I think this will hit Mantis more than we think it will, as she thrives on her movement speed boost to 1v1 duelists. It also allows her to get back to the fight fast and rival Luna Snow, who can also get back to the fight really fast. However, with her movement speed being reduced, it's probably going to make other healers better that don't have movement speed boosts, such as Cloak and Dagger. Now we have Hela. So Hela is receiving a couple nerfs, but not enough. Her base health is being reduced from 275 to 250, and her seasonal bonus is going from 20% to 15%. So overall, very small nerfs for Hela. I'm hoping that the health change will be very good and will be able to kill her before she can kill the entire team. I think she needed a little bit more nerfs, and I think her ultimate needed touching as well, since she is banned in every single game. Everyone knows she's such a threat, she ruins the game, she makes it not very fun. So I would love to see her receive a few more nerfs, but I'm also glad that they're taking it slowly as to not destroy the character. Now we're moving on to ruining games number 2, Hawkeye. He's receiving a lot of nerfs. The spread angle between every 2 blast arrows is being slightly reduced. The passive triggering distance is being reduced from 60 meters to 40 meters, and the max additional damage from the passive is going from 80 to 70. In addition, his seasonal bonus is also dropping 5%, just like Hela. I think these changes look like they're going to impact him a lot, but I really don't think they will, as he can still one-shot squishies. He's going to be doing less damage to tanks, and he will have to get closer to enemies in the fight instead of standing really far back, as his passive will now not charge as far back as it usually would. But I think Hawkeye will still be a very good character, and I think these changes affect him less than Hela. Next we have Hulk. His indestructible guard gamma shield value for Hero Hulk is being reduced from 250 to 200. Hulk has become quite prominent as a really good tank, and this is partly due to his team up with Doctor Strange and Iron Man, who are also very good characters right now. Next we move on to Black Panther. I hate Black Panther. Black Panther is a very, very good character. He could delete entire backlines, so let's see how he's going to be nerfed. After consuming vibranium marks with Spirit Rend, the additional health that he gains is being reduced from 40 to 30, and the upper limit of additional health that he can gain is being reduced from 120 to 75. So overall, he's going to have 45 less max health, and every dash where he collects a vibranium mark is going to give him 10 less health, which will definitely make him more killable, but I don't envision it will change too much, as good Black Panthers are literally impossible to hit, but we'll have to see how these changes play out. And finally, for the patch notes, we have Lunar Snow. Lunar Snow is receiving an adjustment so that you can't switch from her healing and her damage in her ultimate as fast as you could. Now it is 0.5 seconds instead of 0.1 seconds. I'm glad that this is being changed, as there was a common exploit going around where you could change so fast and you could actually increase her healing value more than it was meant to be. Aside from the patch notes, we're also getting 3 new maps which are vampire themed along with the season. We're getting graphic settings which will hopefully make for better FPS. We're getting mouse acceleration settings, streamer mode, a new battle pass with 10 skins, and a new rank, Celestial, which is going between Grandmaster and Eternity. I think this rank is very good because the skill disparity in Grandmaster right now is pretty crazy. We're also getting 4 new characters. We have Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic, which are releasing tomorrow on Friday with the start of the season. And then halfway through the season, we're also getting The Thing and we're getting Human Torch. I'm so excited for Season 1. I hope you guys are too. Thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know what you think to all the new changes.